Wide receivers. I don't know what McVay's going to do. Do you want to touch anything from this Rams squad today? Because McVay scares me in these spots.
He treats every week like it's week 18 because I never know what he's gonna do.
Yeah, good point.
He
And now
drives
it
me
really is
nuts.
week 18, which makes it even more difficult.
So the most interesting thing about that is that everyone in the world, including me, is gonna have Mike Evans is in the Bijan Baker bucket of like he's got the incentive. They have to win. He's a monster. He's playing good football. He attaches to Baker. So any pivot you could get off of Mike Evans is going to be interesting, but I'm not sure there is simply a pivot up there worthwhile.
Well, here's the only reason Puka would be someone that probably doesn't land in a lot of my lineups unless we actually feel confident that these starters are going to play the whole game. Mike Evans is 8K in a phenomenal spot. I personally, Ben, if there's one incentive, and it's not a monetary incentive, it's a tie Jerry Rice for the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. I know it's 17 games, but it doesn't matter for him. I think they get it. I think they get him his 85 for sure. I'd be shocked if they didn't. And he's 8K. He's a touchdown monster. Brian Thomas is 7,300. Who just doesn't want to play Brian Thomas at this point? Malik Neighbors was questionable, ended up having the best game of his career. He's probably facing Philly backups. And say they're tanking or not, if Drew Lock and Malik Neighbors are out there and they play this whole game, I'm not shying away. Those three guys to me above 7K, at least now, before we have definitive clarity in some of these spots, they're my three favorite guys up there, and it's not particularly close.
Yeah, I mean, again, those guys, the paths are pretty clear for one reason or another. And around them, I think it's just a lot of unknowns. And it's funny, there's a lot of games, but it's not that crowded of a range. Like
It's
we
not.
go, we get into the 6K range pretty quickly. So yeah, you just don't have that many options. And so I'll go to, if you want to take Evans, I'll take Brian Thomas, who's just been unreal. He has double digit targets basically every week at this point. 5 straight weeks of
Yep.
double digit targets. It's going to be 6 straight to close the year. I don't see why it wouldn't.
I know I'm a broken record here, but him and Mac Jones have a legitimate connection.
Yeah.
You don't have to love Mac Jones, but hey, look at Mac Jones attempted 22 passes last week. 22. 10 of them went to Brian Thomas. It's insane. Just a massive, massive target share. I'm not going to go Evans. I like Evans. I'm going Malik Neighbors.
Okay.
Listen, if you and I both know with Neighbors is healthy, why would you not want to play more Malik Neighbors in this spot?
I, I hear you. I mean, you just saw it. No doubt. And you mentioned this is not the Eagles.
I have a hunch that DK Metcalf might be out this week. The guy's been dealing with injuries. And McDonald said that, if whoever's healthy is going to play, but, if they're not and they've been dealing with stuff, that they'll be out. Wouldn't shock me if DK Metcalf sits. If that's the case, JSN looks outstanding at 6,100 in the mid range. Lad McConkey, if they have something to play for, I'd love him. Or if Harbaugh just says, look, we're playing, everyone's playing. Sutton at 6,400, my guess is he's going to be pretty popular. Not a bad range here. Would you go to Drake London? I
That's
have, really?
Yeah, I like Drake London this week. Again, I don't really know how good Penix is going to be, but I do know that Drake London's going to get his 13 targets in that game. That was a wild game, no doubt about it. And the touchdowns have been certainly few and far between recently. Through the first 7 games, he had 5 touchdowns, and now he has 7 on the year. So you worry a little bit about that, but at the same time, all hands on deck. It's still Drake London. He's still the alpha on the outside. If you don't play Bijan and you want Falcons exposure, I'm fine with that. And at the same time, it's not a range that I think is so crowded that the opportunity cost is massive. Sure, Sutton makes a lot of sense. And a couple of these other guys, like I have London ahead of a guy like Ladd this week.
Okay, I don't, but I understand it. I could just see this being a extraordinarily low passing volume game from Penix and just a
Maybe.
Bijan 30 touch game. I, I don't know. We'll see. JSN could just be the smash at 6,100 though. It's
I
very
love
possible.
JSN. He's such a good player. Big fan.
Sutton at 64. I like to bounce back a lot here for Sutton after that big Marvin Mims game. Sutton's been notorious this season for, whenever he has a terrible game, he wasn't even, sorry, he wasn't terrible. He actually had a decent game. 5 for 55 and a touchdown, but he was second fiddle to Mims in that spot for sure. I like Sutton here. Jacoby Myers isn't bad either at 5,700. I'd entertain it.
I'd like, I'd like to get some inferences on what the Chargers are doing.
That if the Chargers are sitting their guys, I would definitely, because if the Steelers win, Chargers are locked in the 6th seed. Locked. The Steelers lose, they have real incentive to get to the 5th. All right, low tier. I'm saying 5,500 and under. There's plenty down here.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley's down here.
He is. I think Pearsall, I mentioned on yesterday's strategy show and live before lock that I could see them just trying to get Pearsall the ball more, with the season over. Why not get your rookie first rounder who's coming off a gunshot wound to the chest? I'm not saying you do it like as a sympathy thing. I'm saying he missed the first 6 weeks of the season and then had been scarcely involved. 10 targets for this guy yesterday. So
he was on fire.
Yeah, I could see Pearsall just once again. He had some amazing catches. This guy's legit. Guy's real legit. I could see Pearsall getting heavily involved. He's 4,100. I think that's good value. I think Olamide Zaccheaus could be good value. Jaden Daniels really likes it. I don't know how much he's going to play, but Wandale at 46. I'm just going from bottom to top. I like this this range down here.
Yeah, Zaccheaus is interesting. Obviously, when 3 touchdowns in 2 games will make anyone look good. No doubt about it. You've got McMillan. He's going to continue to be in Bucs stack, so he's probably going to be over-owned relative to the isolated interest, but he's, again, it's hard to argue with what Baker's doing. I think the 2 most interesting spots that I can't figure out are the Indy guys. If Flacco gets the nod again, Pittman and Downs are right there. And then, let's not forget, and I certainly did last week, about Alec Pierce, who had 9 targets, 6 for 122 and 1, the home run hitter himself. So you have 3 Colts pass catchers within $300 of each other, and they all had really healthy volume. Pittman still saw double-digit targets in that game. Downs was the quiet one. He had 3 catches, 22 yards. Hard to decipher, but I don't think we should ignore these Colts pass catchers.
Man, I had some really nice lineups that Downs just sunk.
Yeah, I had the Colts defense, and that really sunk me.
Yeah, that's tough. But I mean, I'm looking over these lineups. I'm going, man, I had some good reads. I told you, I bet the Texans -19 or the Bucks -19.5.
Yeah, the alt lines. Yep.
Just playing for that route. You could feel it. The writing was on the wall. They absolutely dominated. I was loaded with Buck stacks. McMillan, Evans, Baker, even Durham had a decent game. Bucky Irving. And I'm looking over these lineups. I'm like, man, I got a ton of Jonathan Taylor. Got a lot of this. And Josh Downs was one of my highest exposed players on the entire slate. I had so much of him.
Yep, I hear you. It was, but
I'd go right back to him this week.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm not really deterred by that.
I'm not at all. I almost like it more going into this week. It's a carousel over there. So if everyone jumps on Pittman, the field's sharper than they used to be, though. Downs isn't just going to be the odd man out from an ownership standpoint.
Nope. But yeah, that's kind of where I look, and I'm gonna go to, even though again there's multiple, we need news. I'd like to know who my pass catchers are getting the ball from, but I'm gonna go. Pittman is just my guy. I really believe if he can see 10 targets like that, he's not a $5,200 receiver. I don't care who's throwing him the ball.
You're right. Last one, would you go Mims?
Mims is Shaheed and Gabe Davis, where he's going to have these type of games, but he's not more likely to have this type of game because he had this type of game. And people somehow equate that. So probably not, only because he's overowned. I like Mims as a player. I don't think I want to chase it because other people might.